Hi, and in this video, the year in review 2016 is about the Wii U. And the overview about the video, or what I'm going to go through in this video, is the console SKUs, or stock keeping units, which basically means the different models of the Wii U, the Gamepad, the games, which will be the exclusive games on this platform, so meaning that you have to buy the Wii U to get these games, a brief UI walkthrough, Nintendo Network, which is basically the online services, and the direction I think Nintendo Wii U is going in, or what I think Nintendo wants the Wii U to go in. So without further ado, I'll talk about the console SKUs. So there's only two, and one of them was discontinued, the 8GB model, which had 8GB of internal memory, no Blu-ray or 4K streaming. It supported vertical and horizontal console positions and has no VR support. So that console is discontinued. So now the one that's currently available is the Wii U 32GB, which is at $330. It comes with 32GB of internal memory, no Blu-ray or 4K streaming. It supports vertical and horizontal console positions and no VR support. And that's basically it for this console. I don't think I missed anything major, but overall the Wii U doesn't have too much, and the internal memory is very low. So it does support external memory, so you can attach a hard drive using a USB to expand that memory, but the internal memory is very low and you cannot remove the internal memory. It's fixed 32GB. So, and that's the only model that's available. Now I'll talk about the gamepad. The gamepad is region locked. It's basically the tablet-like gamepad, and it's not compatible with all digital games available on the network. And the gamepad is not sold separately, so meaning that if you break the gamepad, that is it. You cannot replace it unless someone wants to give up their only gamepad that came with the console that they bought and wanted to give it to you. Otherwise, you cannot replace the gamepad. And also the gamepad is region locked, so I have to keep that in mind. It's region locked, so you can't export a gamepad from another region. It has to be from the same region, and the battery life is short. So keep that in mind. It's region locked, not compatible with all digital games. It's not sold separately, and battery life is low. So there's a lot of problems right there. But let's move on. So the gamepad, there's nothing much to talk about the gamepad, so I'll just move on from that. And the games, there are about 47 exclusives, meaning that you have to buy the console in order to play these games. I'll have random 10 displayed now, but I'll say just random 10 that are off my head, or just random games. It doesn't have to be 10, just random games off of my head. And there'll be like Wii Fit U, there's U-Craft, there's Star Fox Guard, Star Fox Zero, there's also Pikmin 3, Mario Party 10, The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker HD, and there's also Twilight Princess HD. This one's kind of iffy. People can debate that you can play the game on another platform, but sometimes if you want a remastered, and that the remastered version is what you want, the remastered version is only exclusive to the Wii U. So keep that in mind. The HD versions are exclusive to the Wii U. And there's like games like Dr. Luigi, Fast Racing Neo. There is Fatal Frame, Maiden of Blackwater, and Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. So if any of those games like speak to you in some kind of form, you have to buy the Wii U to get these games. So keep that in mind. The games I'm listing, or the games I'm saying, you have to buy the Wii U to get these games. So next will be the UI interface, or the UI walkthrough. Okay, so what you're seeing right now is the home screen, but since you can't see the gamepad, what's displaying on the gamepad, you're seeing what's displayed on the TV screen. So I'm using the Pro Controller to navigate. So this is basically like an interactive forum. So over here is Smash Brothers, and what people are posting about Smash Brothers. And this is, I think, Mario Maker, Skylanders. I'm not sure what this is. Maybe what do you call it? Minecraft, Splatoon, most likely Paper Mario, Zelda Majora's Mask, and so on. So this is the main menu. Currently installed or currently inserted into the Wii U is Xenoblade Chronicles X. This is Mii Maker, settings, Wii U chat, which I never use. I don't have any friends on Wii U. There's Netflix, Amazon, YouTube, Hulu. So basically, when it has backwards capability with the Wii, it basically emulates the Wii menu, and then you get to play the games that way, the older games that way, or the Wii games, I should say. And you need the Wii remote and nunchuck to play the previous games. You can't use the default gamepad. And these are stats, my daily logs of how long I played the game, when I played the games. And this section here is most likely short, because very little, because I don't really play Wii U no more. Parental controls, health and safety information, and then Wii Sports Club. And basically, over here is like when you install games, it has its own tile. And as you can see, I don't have much games installed. And since the internal memory is small, you need an external hard drive. And I used a USB stick for a while, and I essentially took the USB stick, reformatted it, and used it for something else. So most of my saves are gone. Oh, and the bottom here too, I forgot to mention. This is like the USB part here. This little thing is for USB. This is for your friends list, Miiverse, Nintendo eShop, internet browser, notifications, download management, and this is for me to switch the screen from what you saw before and back here. So that's basically it. I'm not going to go into here, the Wii menu. I can check the notifications to see how that looks. So this is what recently was notified to me. Back out of here. I'm not going to go internet browser. I'll go into the eShop. I'll browse the Miiverse quickly, see how that looks. So this is the Miiverse. You can't really control it with the Pro Controller, so I'll be using the default gamepad for this. So you can see my finger as I'm scrolling up. So this is my user page. My profile here. Profile comment hidden by admin is because what did I do again? I advertised my gamer tags or online IDs from my other consoles, and they hid my comment, and it hasn't been removed ever since. Don't really care, but that's the way it is. As you can see, I don't do too much here. There's activity feed. As you can see, I haven't done much. When was this? So this was May 10th? I mean, yeah, I'm assuming it's May 10th. Or it could be October 5th? I don't know. 2015. As you can see, nothing much here. Oops, I missed it. Here's communities. So basically, think of these like groups. Let's see. Let's check out Exile's End. The art looks pretty cool. And you see the game is this 2D game. There's nothing wrong with that, but I just expected something different. So here's someone's drawing. Let's check out Zach's. Inspired by South Park, it looks like. So this is basically Wii U here. Messages, I shouldn't have anything. Don't have any friends. Notifications, I shouldn't really have anything. So I'm closing this. Okay. That was the Miiverse friends list. I guess I'll check this quick. Users played with. This should be interesting. Wow. Okay. I didn't think it would have anything. But Splatoon is a popular game on the Wii U. Register friends, settings. We'll go into that. Let's go into the eShop. eShop is the same thing. You can't navigate using the Pro Controller, so I'm using the default Gamepad. And keep in mind, if you break the default Gamepad, you can't navigate within these screens or sections of the Wii U. So at the top there you see enter download code, charts, news. I'm not sure what charts are, so let me check it out. Okay, I think it's just a filter. It looks like it's just a filter for the E-Star. So you want to look at certain content. That's what you do. So I'm going back to the home. There's news. Let's check out what news looks like. What's new in the eShop? Or at least it's informative. So there's Paper Mario Color Splash, Minecraft Fallout Edition. But remember now, this is DLC. These are digital games. All this here. So keep in mind that the internal memory is small. You need an external hard drive to play these games, essentially. So there's categories. So Mario games, Pokemon games, The Legend of Zelda, Mega Man games, games with demos, games on sale, Virtual Console, eShop exclusives. Let's check this out. eShop exclusives. Cup Critters, Shoot the Ball. I have no idea what these games look like. Let's check out this one. All right. Anywho, backing out. Let's go to the home. Faster. Okay. So there's NES games, Super NES, Game Boy Advance, Nintendo 64, Nintendo DS, and Wii. So Nintendo 64, let's check out this one. Oops. So that's what's there. Let's check out the Wii stuff. You sort of have to hold on it. There's Skyward Sword. There's like Xenoblade Chronicles for the Wii. I think the physical copy is like $100 or close to that. So the digital copy, if you want that, is $29.19. So keep that in mind. If something's physical and it costs a lot of money, try to look for it digitally, and it will be a lot cheaper. But keep in mind, you need the Wii remote and nunchuck to play the games on the Wii U. Otherwise, you can't play it. And that's basically it. There's even a Nintendo Switch. I'll give my opinion on this later. But that's the new console that's coming out. Nintendo Switch right there. Let's check out my menu. So I put that on my list. Rate titles. And that's about it. As you can see, I'm not an avid Wii U user. Go back to the main menu. Let's check out daily logs. As you can see, it's very bare bones. So as you can see in this month, it's not that much. Let's check out there we go. December, I played. I guess because my cousins were over, or my nephews, or someone was over. And then the last time I played was, September 2016. I'm surprised. Let's see. August. So I played my Wii U more than I thought I did. And it's very little. It's like 1 or 2 hours here and there. So I did play my Wii U quite a bit, more than I thought, but still it's not a lot. I only remember 2015, and surprised it's more than that. So I'm not going to go through the settings. I'm not going to go through the Mii Maker. I'll check out the Wii U chat. It's funny, they have a Wii U chat, but with their games, developers are not implementing voice chat, which is odd. So, but that's the way it is. They have a Wii U chat where you can chat with voice and with video, but with their games, they do take it out, voice chat, and the reasons are subjective to whatever developer decided to leave it out. But then they have the Wii U chat. It just, to me, at least, makes no sense, because if you have this feature here, why wouldn't you implement it in the games themselves? Hopefully my Wii U is not broken. Okay, I'm gonna back out. Oh, I see. It's on the, what do you call it, the Gamepad. As you can see, I'm not an avid user, so I can't even show you that. So that's something that's mandatory for the Gamepad. If the Gamepad's broken, you can't even use that. So they use the, the camera on the Gamepad for video chat, and the mic on the Gamepad for audio. And of course, you could always text chat, have the on-screen keyboard. And here's the Wii game here. I can't play it because I need the Wii. I have the Wii nunchuck and controller and remote, but I just don't feel like pulling it out. But this is basically it. This is the Wii U. Yeah. If you are looking into the Wii U, this is what you should be expecting. So that will be it for the walkthrough. Now I'll talk about the Nintendo Network. There's not much to talk about here, so I'll make this brief. So now with the Nintendo Network, there's no membership required, so everything is free. And now the user names are readable or human readable, meaning that they're not some kind of arbitrary code you have to type in order to add a friend. You can have like a readable name that an end user can read or remember. So it's like a name. Like you can put Terminator TX3 as the name instead of 1115678-77315532. Like that's all gone. Like the friend codes are gone. Now it's more human readable, meaning that it's more understanding and can be processed easier without any aided support to remember the name. So that's what I just mean by human readable. And for the most part, it supports everything else that the other consoles have, like voice chat and everything else. But a lot of the a lot of the developers choose not to support it. It's the choices that the developers make, and not so much like whether the network is not capable of doing that. A lot of the developers just choose not to support like voice chat and stuff like that. So there's not much to talk about here. There's not much exclusives like to the network. Like when you join the network, you're not getting discounts or anything like that like the other services. So everything's free. So this is more similar to PC market, where it's just free and whatever's there is there. Lastly, I want to talk about the direction I think the Wii U is going in, or where I think Nintendo wants the Wii U to go in. So it seems like Nintendo's targeting a really young audience, and with an odd game, targets a really adult audience. But overall, it may look like they're trying to get the casual market, which can be good in a sense, but also bad that the casual audience does not invest much into video games. And this is why I think the mobile market is thriving, because all you need is one device to play all your games. But with the Wii or Wii U, more specifically the Wii U, you need a lot of peripherals to play various games. So therefore, you need a lot of investment, especially with an external hard drive. They make it more complicated for the casual market. So the device is not catered to the casual market, and you would need to be more into video games, and you would have to invest in more in the gaming console to get more out of it. So they seem to be targeting a casual market, but the device is not designed to cater to that casual market, because that casual market doesn't invest into video games much. And with the Wii U, you need to invest in second controllers. You need to invest into second controllers. You need to... The online is free, which is good. But overall, to play various games, you need to invest more into the console. Like external hard drives. I'll get into them, the pro and cons. But overall, you need more investment to play various titles. And the casual market would not do that. They just want the one device to play everything. And you don't have to have something added on to play something else. They might like that. And that's like an odd thing for a casual audience to do. But overall, they want the one device to do everything. And Nintendo Wii U is not catered to that. The last thing I want to mention before going to the pros and cons, generally speaking, console gaming is for more of a casual, hardcore audience kind of thing, where they don't want the headache of the details and manipulation, like, so you don't have that much control over the device as like PC gamers do. So the console market is more geared for like plug and play kind of style. So the casual market can fit better with the console market than with PC. So generally speaking, the console market is more catered for a casual audience, and the Wii U messes that up. Like, you're in the market where it's generally like thrives on casual stuff where you don't just plug and play. Even though people might say that they're hardcore gamers and they're console players, overall the console experience is simplified or dumbed down for the people who don't want to get into the nitty gritty of the graphics and the components and tweaking this, tweaking that, mods. It's just a simple plug and play style, and Wii U is messing that up. Even though it's not a complicated system, you need to know a lot or be aware of a lot of things to understand what Nintendo is doing with the Wii U. And the casual market doesn't do that. You just want a plug and play kind of thing, and the Wii U doesn't do that. It's like that in a little bit. It's like that in another sense. It's not like that, and the casual market is not going to thrive on the Wii U. So I just want to mention that the console market is generally thrives with casual audience, but the Wii U kind of messes that up. So with the letter grade, I gave the Wii U a C, and the pros for the Wii U console is that it has about 47 exclusives, supports external hard drive, is a collectible console, so when you go back to the default settings of the Wii U, you can still pop in a game and play the game off the disc without having an initial update to change the default settings. Physical games are playable without an initial update, which I just mentioned. Backwards capability with digital content, so you have older games in the Nintendo Store, eStore, which is good. So you can get to play like Nintendo 64 games or Nintendo Game Boy Advance games and stuff like that. And games play off of the disc. So when you pop in a game disc, the game plays off of the disc like the, I guess PS3 games were like that. Same thing with Xbox 360, but more so with PS2, where you just pop in a game and you just play it off of the disc. Right now in this generation, with Xbox One and PlayStation 4, when you pop in the disc, it installs the game's disc data onto the console, similar to like a PC game, where you pop in a PC game and it installs onto your hard drive. So right now, the Nintendo Wii U, it still has that console style of design with the games, where you just plug and play kind of thing, while the PS4 and Xbox One is kind of a hybrid of PC and console design. So this is like a plus. So you just plug and play, and you're in the game. So now with the cons, the default controllers are not compatible with all older software. So with the default Gamepad, where it's like a tablet, it's not compatible with Wii games, because the Wii games had Wii nunchuck and remote to play their games, and the Gamepad doesn't support that kind of controller design. And you need about 6 default controllers to play older or current software. This is kind of mixed up. So basically, when you want to play like say 5 players on the console, you can't have 5 gamepads. So you need to use alternative controllers to support the amount of players that a particular game can support. So that would mean like 1 gamepad, maybe 1 Pro controller. It can be a Wii U Pro controller or Wii Pro controller. It can be Wii Remote. So this is what it means when I say about 6 default controllers needed to play older or current software. So you can't have, like I say, for example, if there's 5 players supported for a particular game, you can't have 5 default gamepads. That's not supported. So you need older controllers to fill in that space, or you need Pro controllers. I'm not sure if all Pro controllers can play. Again, it's really an odd console. This is where the casual audience will be lost. So take that with a grain of salt if you want, but it's an odd design. The next con, it's region locked. So the consoles and the gamepads are region locked. So you can't replace the the default D-pad or controller pad. That's like a tablet. And if you do manage to replace it, it has to be within your own region, and you can't replace the console, and it has to be within your own region. So if you don't want to buy a whole new console to get a new gamepad, you would have to somewhat try to find a D-pad that's in your region for it to be compatible with your device, your Wii U device. So keep that in mind. The next con, fix 8 gigabytes and 32 gigabytes of internal memory. Multi-platform games are often not released on this platform. So think of this like the CODs, maybe Battlefield, games like that, or Titanfall. These games were not going to be released on the Wii U. And I think even sports titles have been stopped being released on the Wii U. And sports titles are like almost yearly, if not every other year. And this is not being released on the Wii U. So keep that in mind, that most of the content or the attraction for the Wii U is the exclusives, and it's mainly Mario's. And don't get me wrong, exclusives is good, but it's also important to have multiplats, because that also unifies certain aspects of the playing field. If you don't have the multiplats and just exclusives, that kind of hurts you. So you want the multiplats on top of the exclusives. If you only have multiplats, no exclusives, then there's no draw to the console. But when you only have exclusives and no multiplats, then you don't have like that unification with the popular franchises as well. So you need a balance between exclusives and multiplats, and Nintendo tends to have more exclusives than multiplats. You want more multiplats than exclusives, but you still want exclusives for the attraction, the main attraction for the console that only can be experienced on this particular device. And the Wii U does not really have multiplats, only exclusives. The next one, the naming convention confuses consumers unnecessarily. This is talking about how the console is called Wii U. So with the predecessor, Wii, many of the peripherals were like Wii Nunchuck, Wii Remote, Wii Balance Board. And then they came up with a console called Wii U. So that confuses the consumers. You created a naming convention associated with the Wii, and now you released a new console that sounds like a peripheral that was for the predecessor for the Wii U. So it sounds like Wii U is an attachment for the Wii instead of having its own console. So you created a naming convention for the Wii, and you named the console with that naming convention in mind. That gives the impression, especially to the casual audience, that it's a add-on than a standalone console. So keep that in mind. It's a standalone console, but the naming conventions that the Wii and the Wii U have is confusing to the consumers. The next con, Nintendo is the only major developer or stakeholder for the platform. This is pretty natural to have the manufacturer to be the major developer, but you want it to be the only major developer. Like with the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One, there's like a whole bunch of other developers, strong developers, well-known developers supporting that platform. With the Nintendo, there are some people who took risks, but most of the time it's just Nintendo supporting it. And that's the consistent developer that tends to be supporting the console, and that tends to be the console manufacturer. So keep that in mind. This is kind of catering to the multiplats, but keep that in mind that Nintendo is the major pusher for Nintendo, which is common, but you want more. Like you want more than just Nintendo. This is what this con is emphasizing, that Nintendo is the only one pushing Wii U, and that's a bad thing. The next one, voice chat is often purposely left out of games by the developers, which is odd, but it's true. Moving on. Nintendo doesn't push online social features. So Nintendo, okay, they have some social features built into the console or UI, but with the games themselves, they don't push too much social features. Like you can't really stream, you can't share too much. And even if you do manage to stream outside the console, and Nintendo will probably shut you down if it's on YouTube or something. Nintendo, for some reason, doesn't like social features that are really strong and popular in the social community. So if the streaming's popular, Nintendo's not going to do it. So keep that in mind. There's not much strong social features. They're very basic ones, like forum kind of social features. So you can post text, you can post pictures, but you can't really post videos. You can maybe post screenshots, but that's about it. You can't really post too much. So keep that in mind. There's no cloud saves on this console. There's missing CRUD operations. That means create, read, update, deactivate. These are basic programming operations to keep the device user-friendly. You always need those kind of operations. So like, say for example, you create an address and someone's address changes. You want that to be editable. You want that to be updated. So these are basic CRUD operations. So this is mostly associating to the user online IDs. So when someone creates an ID, if you don't have that ability to update it, that kind of makes it less user friendly. As dumb as it may sound, CRUD operations is CRUD operations is a staple in programming. It's like best practice kind of thing. So when you're creating software, you always want to make sure you implement CRUD operations in some form. If you don't do that, as dumb as it may sound, it makes the user experience not as friendly. So like making something not updatable or editable, it actually hinders the experience. As dumb as it may sound, it is true. The next con: alternative gamepads are used for other gamepads for headset support. So this basically means like if I want to use the Wii U Pro controller, there's no headphone jack on the controller itself. So I would need the default gamepad to plug in my headset to, but still use the Pro controller. So I'll be using two controllers to use my headset. If I don't want to use the default gamepad for some reason, and I want to use the Wii U Pro controller, I can use the Wii U Pro controller. But if I want to talk, if there was support for that in games, I would have to use the default gamepad for the headphone jack and the Pro controller if I wanted that combination. So keep that in mind. It's an odd console. It makes things very complicated. It makes it too complicated for the market it's in. It's just a mess, in my opinion. The next con: default gamepad is not sold separately and is mandatory for some parts of the UI, eShop, and some games. So the default gamepad, the one that looks like a tablet, is mandatory for some of the UI, the e-store, meaning like the online store with the digital content, and games actually need some of the games need the default gamepad. So if you break the default gamepad, you can't navigate through parts of the UI, eShop, complete the whole eShop. You need the gamepad, the default gamepad for, and some games will not work without the default gamepad, and you cannot replace that. So keep that in mind. You can't replace the default gamepad. At the same time, the default gamepad is mandatory for some operations on the Wii U. Okay, so the last con I have here is console supports up to 4 controllers from my memory. I searched it up. I think it's up to 4 or 5. And only up to 2 default gamepads can be used at once, with alternative controllers filling in the space in between. So like if there's 4 players of is a 4-player game you have, only 2 people can have the default gamepad, and then 2 other people need alternative controllers. You need like a GameCube controller or a Pro controller, Wii Pro controller, or Wii U Pro controller. They need something else in place of the default gamepad if you want to play more than 2 players. So keep that in mind. The console doesn't support up to 4. How many controllers it supports? I think it's 4 or 5. Here it says 4, but I believe some games support 5 players. But from my understanding, the Wii U does not support up to the amount of players it can support with the default gamepad. So with most consoles, I say for example Nintendo 64, if it can support up to 4 players, it usually means up to 4 default gamepads. If you're talking about the PS4, if it can support up to 4 controllers, it usually means up to 4 default gamepads, like the 4 PS4 DualShock 4 controllers. If you want to talk about the Xbox One, if it can support up to 8 controllers, that usually means up to 8 default gamepads. But with the Wii U, it does not mean that. So if it supports up to 5 controllers, it does not mean it supports up to 5 default gamepads. Only 2. So again, this is what makes it complicated more so than it needs to be. The frustrating part of it is that they're tackling the casual market. The casual market wants to plug and play. You're adding in more processes or more steps into something that should be very simple. This is when the console power is so weak, it kind of like hinders the experience for the gamer. I understand power is not everything, but when your console can handle a lot, it can do more for the end user. So think of it this way: the harder the programmer makes, the harder it is to program particular things for the programmer, the easier the experience is for the end user. The easier it is to program for the programmer, the harder it is for the end user. So since they probably have very simple operations on the developer side, but it makes it harder for the end user to adapt to that. So the more stuff that's running in behind the scenes, the easier it is for the end user. And I think that's what's happening here. They're trying to make it very simple, very low tech, but in the end, it hurts the end user. Sometimes you need things more complicated on the developer side to make it more simple on the end user side. So, like the basic example I can probably bring up for this is that the more features you implement, the harder it is for the developer, but the easier it is for the end user. And I think this is what the problem is, that they try to make it too simple on the developer side, where it becomes tedious on the end user side, where the gamer sees and interacts with the console. And before I finish off with this year in review for the Wii U, I want to mention that Nintendo tends to reinvent the wheel too much and start over again. So instead of building on what they had previously, they try to reinvent the wheel and starting over again. So like instead of building on what they had, especially with the hardware and tech and controllers and all that stuff. So let's say, for example, the Wii U Gamepad. The next console should have something similar to the Wii U Gamepad, so that the games on the Wii U can be carried over to the next console. And that's how you build on what you built. That's how you build on from the previous generation. So with the mobile market, I can buy, let's say, for example, an iPhone 4. And then say the iPhone 7S is out. The iPhone 4 up to 7S all connect to the same app store. So therefore, I can play any apps that were built for the iPhone 4 and before. So like iPhone 4 to 1. But I can't, let's say for example, download apps designed for iPhone 5 and higher. So I would need a new device to get the newer apps. But I still connect to the same app store as all the other iPhones. So with the Nintendo Wii U or Nintendo in general, once they create a new console, they sever the connection from the previous generation and starting over again instead of building on that library that they had. They worked so hard to build in the previous generation over to the next generation. So what I'm basically saying here is that when you reinvent the wheel too much, you're starting over from scratch. Why would you start over from scratch when you have built such a strong network in the previous generation? You want to salvage what you can from the previous generation and move on to the next generation so you can still make sales off of the hard work and development time and money spent in the software from the previous generation that can still be bought and played with the next generation. So that's what I mean by reinventing the wheel too much. If you reinvent the wheel, that means you're starting from scratch. If you add on to the wheel, you're building on what you already created, like that foundation, and you're just adding to it. Think of it like having a house and building some kind of garage or side piece of the house. With Nintendo, they build a house, they populate it, and then they evict everyone, and then rebuild the house again, and then they try to populate it again. You shouldn't do that. Instead of, what you should be doing is building that house, populate it, buy more property, build another house, populate it, buy more property, build the house, and before you know it, you build a strong community from generation to generation. That's how mobile market has been thriving. They don't make all their earnings within the one generation. They use whatever they had from the previous generation, they carry it over to the next generation. So the mobile market is so big because they don't sever the connection from the last generation. And Nintendo tends to do this. They sever their connection from the last generations. They burn down their bridges. You shouldn't burn down your bridges from the previous generation. You should carry on what you have learned and move over that digital library. I can understand the physical library can't carry over, but the digital library should carry over with ease. Because if you want to move into a digital market, you have to stop severing the connection from the previous generation. And lastly, I want to say that Nintendo Wii U is like the modern day of the Atari. So the Atari tends to have parts in their console that tends to fail. With the Wii U, it's not that the parts fail too much, but it's hard to replace. So it's more daunting when something breaks for the Wii U because it's harder to replace, it's region locked, and on top of that, you can't buy the product separately. So you can't buy another Wii U default gamepad. You would have to buy a whole new console to get a whole new Wii U gamepad. And you have to make sure that console is for your region. You can't even play a console from another region or use that gamepad from another region. So with all that, Nintendo tends to reinvent the wheel, and they created a console that's very similar to the Atari ages, where it's like the hardware is so finicky, and yeah. So that's all I wanted to add. So this is the year in review for the Wii U 2016.